Hello and welcome back to the Battle Room. My name is, of course, the Battle Room, and today I am unfortunately not joined by Raghav. He is currently living it up in New Orleans, having a good swell time. So I still got some finals to break down, and I do think I may be the best person to break this one down. I used a team very similar, if not identical, to Eric's team with some slight variations, and I understand this matchup through and through. So I'm very excited to break this one down, talk to you guys, give you that insight, and help you learn. So let's first take a look at the road our heroes took to get here. Let's start with Francesco, who played Adrian Hurley in top 8, which is no easy feat, dispatched clean 2-0, and then 2-0'd former world champion Shoma Honami, one of the greatest players of all time, a mythic Orapole, especially with Shoma playing as hard as he was for this tournament. It is so sick to see that Francesco is able to dispatch him with ease. Obviously a very easy and easy breezy route for our boy Francesco here. But then on the other side, we have Eric Rios, who beat Dewey C in a very difficult matchup, 2-0, and then also beat Wolf Glick 2-0 as well. Now going into this one, the finals is very interesting because their teams are almost identical, but that little bit of change I think completely warps the matchup and how the Pokemon are trained. So let's take a look at these two teams. So the first team we have here is none other than Francesco Piapero's team, also known as Chichit. This team is so funny because he posted this team on his Patreon and just said, hey, I think I have the best team, and here it is. And so this team has been publicly known for about 2 weeks now, since before Indy, and it's been a pretty common meta staple team. It mainly focuses around Aerodactyl and Charizard as our two megas of choice here: Basculegion, Garchomp, Kingambit, and Sylveon. You basically get to use all the broken Pokemon, and then you have an Aerodactyl there and a Sylveon, because you don't really want to run Floette, Aerodactyl, and Charizard, so you run Sylveon instead. And then you do want that Aerodactyl because it is your main primary form of speed control and support. Now, looking at the team, it does have a couple problems. Most notably, it does not like dealing with enemy Kingambits. I think enemy Kingambit can get really dicey, especially if the other team, I don't know, had an Aerodactyl, right? Like, the mirror for this version of the team does suck a little bit. Basculegion is not super bringable. Charizard is also not super bringable. And we're going to see both trainers probably tend to opt in for the Aerodactyl, Garchomp, Sylveon, Kingambit matchup. Now, what's really important to note here is the speed of the Aerodactyl. Sometimes on these teams, the Aerodactyls are not max speed, but fortunately for Francesco here, it is max speed. So at worst, it's going to be a speed tie. Another, kind of big thing to look out here for is, of course, Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb on Garchomp can do wonders. It can be a completely game warping move. Like, if the Rock Tomb hits the right Pokemon, he can set up a potential KO with, let's say, Kingambit, right? Like, if he Rock Tombs and low kicks the enemy Kingambit, it will just go down. Same with just like enabling Sylveon. I think Rock Tomb can play a very important role in this matchup specifically. But I doubt we will see Basculegion or Charizard. Other than that, I think some big notable things here is just going to be how the speeds interact with Eric's Pokemon. And the Kingambit notably here is Choco Berry, which means it's not going to be very fast, which is going to be important later. And then Sylveon also just kind of depends. It's kind of a crazy crapshoot on which Sylveon will be faster. It's just going to come down to the preferences of the players. But I would say I'd favor Francesco Sylveon a little bit, just because he doesn't have Trick Room and Eric does. So cutting back some speed might be in Eric's best interest, and also potentially running a little bit of speed could be very useful for Francesco here. So with all that, let's take a peek at Eric's team. So we have Eric's team, and it is again 5 of those same 6 Pokemon, but he is opting for Farigiraf over Basculegion, and I think that makes all the difference here. Farigiraf is very good. This is the same 6 Pokemon I ran in the tournament, so I'm a huge fan, obviously, of these 6 Pokemon, and so the Farigiraf, I think, just enables everything so perfectly here. There are some small slight variations here. Francesco had Wide Guard, where Eric has Ice Fang. And then I believe also, no, they both have dual wing beat. Yeah. And then Eric also has an entire Farigiraf. But one of the biggest, most important things that Eric has over Francesco is Sash Kingambit. Now, the reason that is so big is that it is basically it's kind of able to deal with the two best leads that Francesco could lead, which is Sylveon plus Aerodactyl, and then Aerodactyl plus King Gambit, because Eric's King Gambit's faster, and then he also has the Unnerve ability, obviously, on Aerodactyl, and he can potentially not Mega Evolve and just low kick, sweep the leg, remove that guy from play, right? It's very, very hard for Francesco to deal with King Gambit. And then obviously another important thing to note here is the Garchomp doesn't have Rock Tomb and instead has Stomping Tantrum, which I do think could play an important role, just being able to do more damage to King Gambit or Sylveon and to get around that wide guard, which I think is going to be very, very important. But going into this matchup, I expect the players to basically bring the same 4 Pokemon, and they might even mirror leads a little bit. I don't know what Francesco's best lead into Aerodactyl plus King Gambit is, or Aerodactyl plus Sylveon. Those are Eric's 2 best leads, and I think I'm just not sure what he's supposed to do. He could opt to lead Garchomp to try and put pressure on, but obviously if Eric does lead Sylveon plus Aerodactyl, that could be very, very bad as well. Another important thing to note here is that when Tailwinds are set up, Aerodactyl is such a fast Pokemon that Aerodactyl will actually increase the speed, but it won't increase the speed enough for Sylveon or King Gambit. So if one Aerodactyl Tailwinds, most likely the other Aerodactyl will move before everything else, even though Tailwind is set up. So those are the important things to know about this matchup, but it is basically just a super boring mirror. But let's hope it's not a super boring match. Let's hop into it and see what these champions can do. So we're going to see a Sylveon and Aerodactyl lead for Eric into a Aerodactyl King Gambit lead from Francesco here. Now, I think this is a pretty, like, when it comes, like, I was so afraid of King Gambit Aerodactyl if I'm Francesco. So seeing Sylveon across from me makes me feel a little bit better about my odds here. It kind of depends also on how the Sylveon is trained, but most likely that Sylveon will outspeed and potentially threaten a KO onto King Gambit with Hyper Beam. So it's just like, do we take that? Do we accept that trade? It might be worth if you're Francesco, because, like, honestly, as long as the King Gambit isn't here right at this very moment, it is probably a little bit more positive for Francesco in terms of leads here. And then for Eric, obviously, he could press Hyper Voice, but most likely he doesn't want to trade damage with King Gambit because King Gambit will just Iron Head you back. So you are kind of forced to press Hyper Beam here. Also, most likely there is no safe switch in the back. The only Fairy Resist on the team is Charizard, and I don't expect Charizard to be coming in this matchup. So we're going to see both those Mega Aerodactyls evolve. Again, the speed tie here is a little bit less important because you do just get to just both trade Tailwinds, which I think is pretty valuable. Oh, just kidding. We're trading Rock Slides. So Francesco is just going to Rock Slide turn 1, which is fair. If he gets a flinch on either Pokemon, it would be really, really good, but he doesn't get that. So instead, Eric gets the Tailwind as well here. And are we going to see that Hyper Beam? We are. So it is going to outspeed and KO that King Gambit, right? Yes. So a very, like, it's a solid play from Francesco, but it is a little bit scary. Now, obviously, Hyper Beam was clicked, so now he can set up his own guaranteed Tailwind as well, as long as he doesn't flinch. And then he can bring in something to potentially dispatch Sylveon or just trade damage back, which is going to be his own Sylveon here. So now Sylveon gets to freely press Hyper Voice, and he gets to freely press Tailwind, and you basically get a KO onto Aerodactyl and a lot of damage back onto Sylveon. So this is a really, really good spot, in my opinion, for Francesco to be in. It's a little bit scary because, like, I don't know if Hyper Voice plus Rock Slide will KO the enemy Sylveon. So that is the one fear here. So we'll have to see. Because otherwise, yeah, he is in a pretty solid spot. Other than that, we're going to see this Wide Guard come through here. Oh, he doesn't go for Tailwind. He goes for Wide Guard to block this Rock Slide. Ooh, that's big. That's big. Not so, well, I guess, you know what? That's actually not a huge deal because, like I mentioned earlier, I should follow my own advice. Aerodactyl can just outspeed the enemy Sylveon, so it doesn't really matter. He can just set up his own Tailwind here, or he could just try to snag this KO with Rock Slide. So this is a really solid spot, honestly, for Francesco. And then Eric, he's going to bring in KG, which is pretty good. I think the KG is pretty strong here because it does threaten a potential one-shot knockout onto Sylveon. It's really interesting because Sylveon struggles taking the Iron Head from King Gambit. You'll notice that Eric's Sylveon has a lot less HP than Francesco's Sylveon, and that's because he's running more defense IVs to try to take the Iron Head or the Dire Claws much better, whereas Francesco just has, like, kind of a generic dump, which means he's probably not as physically bulky as Eric's Sylveon. But again, it kind of comes down to these speeds here. I do kind of think you're allowed to just press Rock Slide Maybe you do have to Tailwind though. But Eric can easily just Iron Head the Sylveon because he does have Tailwind. And no matter what here, I think Eric's just supposed to go for Iron Head Hyper Voice or Iron Head Hyper Beam. Either one is pretty good here. Because again, this Sylveon shouldn't live Iron Head. This is a max attack King Gambit, and he does not have enough defense EVs. Obviously, it could be a roll. I'm not really sure based on the EV spread. I didn't pay for the Patreon, unfortunately. And then we're going to see this Hyper Beam come through, and that's just going to be a clean KO. That's going to be a dead Aerodactyl. He is sent back to the past. So now the last Pokemon here is most likely Garchomp, but Eric probably has a Garchomp of his own here, and so he just needs to navigate this endgame as efficiently as possible. This matchup is really, really stupid. I'm not going to lie to you. Playing the Formon Mirror here is a little bit silly, but I do think it favors Eric really, really greatly. Because, yeah, again, he isn't... Like, having the faster King Gambit, I think, is everything here. And honestly, the Hyper Beam spam just kind of worked. As silly as it was, he just was getting KO after KO after KO, and it just worked. It just worked. So we're going to see the EQ, but obviously King Gambit has a Focus Sash, and also King Gambit is King Gambit. So he eats that Earthquake with ease, and now he's just going to get a Kowtow off. We're going to see the Kowtow come through. It's going to do... Is that like exactly... It did 96 damage, so... I think if it did 1 or 2 more, we were breaking that Citrus Berry. But now he's in range to faint from Dragon Claw. Obviously, the Tailwind is going to peter out for Eric. And then we'll see again. Mostly, like, basically, if it's Farigiraf, the game ends. If it's Garchomp, the game ends. It just has to not be non-Mega Charizard. But believe it or not, I don't think Eric is dumb like that and gonna bring Charizard into this matchup. So I think either of the Pokemon, most likely it's Garchomp again. I'm pretty firm believer in those 4 Pokemon for this matchup specifically. You can try some Trick Room shenanigans, but it's just kind of hard with the speeds of your Pokemon. It really comes down to who's faster. So opting into Tailwind sometimes is better, especially for game 1 here. And obviously these players have probably studied each other a ton going into this matchup. So yeah, now all he's got to do is most likely... This turn is a little bit tricky, but in my opinion, I think you're supposed to just protect the Garchomp, because if you do get crit here, you probably lose. But if you protect, then there's no way they're gonna like Earthquake you. So like, I don't know. I think you're supposed to just go for protect, but I don't think it's a really minute detail, but it doesn't really matter. And Eric is gonna take game 1 cleanly. Kind of how I expected the matchup to go. But you know what I didn't expect? What's the Drip War here? Raghav isn't here, but we got to talk about the drip here. I believe we're rocking 2 jerseys. We've got the M Koi jersey versus the Team Aqua jersey. Yeah, we see it a little bit in that corner there. Man, I gotta say, I'm gonna give it to Francesco, because the V-neck on the jersey is absolutely insane. Like on the esports jersey, and I haven't seen this one before. I've seen Eric's M Koi jersey plenty of times. And I gotta say, it's got some swag, dude. It's got some swag. It's a very interestingly designed jersey, and he's just rocking the V, dude. He's rocking it, so I gotta give it to Francesco. But now the matchup. The more important thing here is the matchup, right? What are you supposed to do if you're Francesco? Because I think this matchup is really, really bad. So that turn, the way the turns played out, it was kind of terrible. I really did like the way Eric Hyper Beam spammed his way through it. It wasn't something that you would originally think to do or seem super intuitive, but the way it worked out was just perfect, dude. He just got 2 KOs with Hyper Beam, and that's all you like. If you get 1 KO with Hyper Beam, sometimes that can swing a game, but 2, I think Francesco just needs to capitalize more on those Hyper Beam turns. But if I'm Francesco, I am so afraid of seeing King Gambit Aerodactyl lead. I was really shocked that Eric didn't lead it, but I also think both these players had a night of prep, and I think Garchomp plus Aerodactyl would probably be the more annoying lead for King Gambit. It's not even that great. It's not perfect by any means, but I do think that lead might have been a little bit better, but I guess then you're threatened by Ice Fang, so it's not even that great either. But yeah, either way, I think the Sylveon lead was perfect for Eric in game 1. But I think it's time for Eric to unlock the true power of the King Gambit plus Aerodactyl lead. Because again, the Focus Sash makes all the difference in this matchup. They're playing for glory. They're playing for the trophy. Who's going to take it? Let's see it. Eric is the Kindler here. Okay. He's got fire in his eyes, dude. I wonder if he changed that before the tournament. So he's going to lead King Gambit plus Aerodactyl into King Gambit plus Aerodactyl. See, this is just so bad because Unnerve is the biggest factor here. Unnerve, I'm just gonna pause this one because this is how stupid this matchup is. So I played a lot of Eric's team on the ladder. Like I was using basically the same team as Eric, and when I would play on the ladder, I would play other people who had the Sash King Gambit. And it's really, really stupid. I don't know what Francesco can do here outside of genuinely just flinching the enemy King Gambit. Like there's just not much he can do because Eric can easily just set up a he can just non-mega his Aerodactyl, and as long as King Gambit doesn't flinch, he is going to get a trade onto Francesco's King Gambit, right? Like he's always just low kicking right here, and then you just kind of have to rock slide low kick and pray that you get the flinch. 30% chance to kill this guy, right? Because I just don't know what else you could do. You could switch into your Sylveon. You could try to get cheeky with it, right? But most likely this guy is just pressing non-mega Tailwind. So it is something that you have to respect. So you'd have to like non-mega Tailwind. It's just brutal, dude. It's honestly just so brutal because you also need to break the stupid King Gambit Sash. That's the other huge issue here. So yeah, I mean, I think the best play is to let the rock slide. Like legitimately, I just don't know what else you can really do because I do think this matchup is so terrible for Francesco because again, his King Gambit can't beat Eric's. Eric's is max speed, max attack King Gambit. You can see in the HP numbers, right? King Gambit 176, that's 4 speed. Max speed King Gambit is just the demon. Again, I ran this myself. It was one of the best sets of the entire day. Just for situations like this, right? You're able to put so much pressure on enemy King Gambits. So we're gonna see the Mega Evolution come through just for Francesco here because most likely Eric has to conserve that because he does not want to lose Unnerve. So we're going to see a big rock slide though from Francesco, and then he is going to try to get this low kick off onto the King Gambit. We see the Tailwind come through, so now it is all coming down to whether or not King Gambit can flinch here, because if not, he's just going to get a KO, but he's not going to KO today. And now the Sash is broken, the low kick comes through, and King Gambit has fainted. Now, I think maybe it's worth, right? Like just getting all that damage onto the enemy Aerodactyl is valuable, right? If you don't get the flinch. But with that flinch, this game is just like so curtains, right? Like now Eric has to potentially lock into a Hyper Beam. He has a staggered Tailwind. Like it's just looking so bad for Eric. So we're going to see Aerodactyl withdraw into Garchomp just to dodge that Sucker Punch, right? You don't want to get hit by a Sucker Punch right now, which is exactly what he's going to do. And then we're going to see the Tailwind come through because, again, Aerodactyl's faster than Sylveon. This guy hits Shadow Rider levels of speed. And then we're going to see a Hyper Voice, but at this point, it's just not enough, dude. It's not enough. Even with the crit, like we are just going to see... oh, yeah, he went for Sucker Punch. He actually didn't go for Iron Head. Oh, yeah, he was afraid of Hyper Beam. Okay, so I totally missed that. So now we have a game. Because now Aerodactyl can potentially go down to a Dragon Claw, and then King Gambit could also go down to a... you could... See, the question here is, will Francesco Wide Guard? So I think the play that I like here is probably just Extreme Speed, or not Extreme Speed, Quick Attack, Dragon Claw onto King Gambit, right? Because then you cover for Wide Guard, you're in a good spot. You could also potentially just go for, like, Rock Tomb Aerodactyl and Hyper Voice, like, and call the no Wide Guard. But it is really difficult. You have to kind of get the Wide Guard right. We're going to see the Sucker Punch come through onto Garchomp to make more progress, get some damage. And are we going to see... We're going to see a dual Wing Beat onto Sylveon? What? We're not even seeing Rock Slides, flinches, or anything here. And then we're going to see the Stomping Tantrum come through. Perfect. And then we're going to see potentially a Hyper Voice or Hyper Beam here. It's going to be a Hyper Voice, so we're just going to pick up 2 clean, quick KOs from Eric. Even with the hacks, he's still kind of chilling here. He really is kind of chilling. Like, he lost his King Gambit for almost nothing, but he was able to get in 2 really good damage dealers in. But that dual Wing Beat is kind of unfortunate for Eric, just because he did make progress onto Sylveon, so it is a little bit easier to potentially deal with here. I totally forgot that he set up Tailwind on the Sucker Punch turn. But now we have just a mirror. The non-shinies versus the shinies. But unfortunately for Eric, his Pokemon are at half HP. So you could just go for the potential... I think the play for Francesco, he's got 2 plays. He could just Dragon Claw Hyper Voice if he thinks his Sylveon is faster, or he could just go for Rock Tomb Hyper Voice as well, which seems like a pretty strong play. But we are going to see a Detect, So that would stop the Rock Tomb Hyper Voice, which we do see. So this is the best possible scenario. But again, those tailwinds are staggered, which is very, very good. Earthquake's going to come through. It's going to do some good damage. It's Soft Sand Garchomp, but it's not even a 2-hit onto Sylveon, dude. It's not even a 2-hit. Since it's Soft Sand too, it is not going to eat this Hyper Voice, unfortunately. Garchomp is just out of here. And then the big thing here too, it was a critical hit too. The big thing as well is Eric doesn't actually have Wide Guard. So now the play could totally just be Rock Tomb Hyper Voice the Aerodactyl. You could totally do that as well. You could, I mean, you don't, Dragon Claw might just kill Aerodactyl, right? Yeah, you just Dragon Claw Hyper Voice because you got the Stagger Tailwind. You should probably win with that. You could go for Hyper Beam if you're unsure. Actually, no, you never go for Hyper Beam because they can't protect Aerodactyl. You just press Hyper Voice Dragon Claw and you will always win this game because of that one staggered turn of Tailwind. So even though Eric kind of brought it back in the mid game and played it pretty solidly as well as he could, it kind of comes down to that turn 1 flinch and then the turn after where he does throw a Sucker Punch, but it allows him to get a guaranteed Tailwind. It looked not great potentially. He did lose some momentum, but it just doesn't matter when he's got the staggered Tailwind, and on this last turn of Tailwind, he's going to win the game. These games are so quick and just so scrappy, and it's just about who can trade better. And this time Francesco did because he did flinch that King Gambit turn 1. It's a hard call, but here's the thing. If I'm Eric, right, and I'm sitting in that chair, I'm like, that game is stupid. I got flinched. It's no big deal. I'm locking in, and I'm running it directly back. I would lock in the same 4 Pokemon instantaneously. King Gambit, Aerodactyl, Sylveon, Garchomp in the back. I just think it's just so favorable to him. I think he has all the better sets, all the better tools. Soft Sand Garchomp with Stomping Tantrum can be really, really nice here. He's got the faster King Gambit, potentially the faster Sylveon, because at this point in the tournament, Francesco probably has a good guess about where Eric's speed is at. So he could potentially, like, we saw him go for the Rock Tomb Hyper Voice. Eric might have potentially the faster Sylveon as well, which would completely shake that matchup and help Eric a lot in the Sylveon mirror as well. So if I'm Eric, dude, lock in, run back King Gambit plus Aerodactyl, because that flinch was what really, really cost him. And I think if he just doesn't get flinched, he can feel confident in his game plan and his ability to just win. Obviously, if the flinch happens, it happens. There's not much you can do. And he'll just have to play accordingly. You know, that's just kind of how it is. So we'll see here. Francesco, on the other hand, I just don't know what he's supposed to do. Like, or what he's supposed to lead to make it better. If he predicts Eric to go for a Sylveon lead himself, I think potentially leading his Sylveon could be a decent trade into it because he has Wide Guard and Eric doesn't. But it still could get funky with Hyper Beams and stuff. But I kind of like, if I'm Francesco, I think Sylveon Aerodactyl seems like a pretty solid lead into everything except for Eric leading King Gambit plus Aerodactyl again. I just really don't know. Like, you could, like, Garchomp maybe? I just don't think Garchomp's a great lead. So we'll have to see here. Game 3 time. Game 3 of NAIC, our first ever champions international finals here. So we're gonna see Aerodactyl Sylveon from Eric. I don't love it. I wish he stuck to his guns. Into Aerodactyl King Gambit from Francesco. So now this kind of comes down to Hyper Beam once again. I think Hyper Beam is probably the play from Eric, but I think this just favors Francesco a little bit if he's able to play you know, accordingly here. I just don't think it's too bad. I think you're just supposed to go for Iron Head and Rock Slide. I just don't see anything else you really should be doing. You could go for Tailwind, but I think Rock Slide's okay. I mean, it would have to be a turn 1 Hyper Beam into your Aerodactyl. That would be the scariest thing for you if you go for that. But most likely they do have to respect your King Gambit. So I think going for Rock Slide is probably the play. So we're going to see the first Mega Evolution and now the second one. Again, Eric does not need his Unnerve right now. I think this is pretty good though for Francesco. Like, just forcing the Aerodactyl to Terra or to Mega does feel pretty good. And we're going to see a Rock Slide from Francesco's. It's going to miss the Aerodactyl, but it's going to hit the Sylveon. And then are we going to see a Rock Slide back? Is it just Flinch Wars here? It's going to be a Tailwind. He's trying to play the consistent route, not trying to potentially flinch here. And now let's see, can Sylveon move? It flinches. It flinches, and then the Iron Head comes through. I do think that this play from Francesco makes a lot of sense, though, right? Like, you're able to potentially stagger the Tailwinds. You're able to threaten Wide Guards. And also, if they target your King Gambit with Hyper Beam, you feel pretty good about yourself, which I think he kind of has to do. So the flinch, though, is like really, really brutal. There's not much you can do with the flinch. That is actually like, because you basically just lose. You just have to fight 4v3. and the tailwinds are staggered. Like, that is rough. That is very, very rough. But right here, no, because you can't. I think Francesco just gets to wide guard Iron Head, and there's like not much Eric can do. But also, he could go for a low kick into that Aerodactyl as well. Those are the two options. Like, because if you think King Gambit's in the back, Eric could try to conserve this Aerodactyl, which is very, very real from Eric. Because if you just Iron Head, you're just up 2-4. Wide guard Iron Head is 2-4. So like wide guard low kick may not be a bad play, because if they do switch in King Gambit, the game instantly ends and you're an NAIC champion. But if they don't switch in King Gambit, you just get a 2-hit KO onto that guy. But we are going to see Stomping Tantrum. Totally forgot about that. That's pretty big, but so we don't even see the wide guard. And we're going to see the Tailwind matched here. And are we going to see that low kick? That is the big question here. It's going to be the low kick. It's going to be the low kick. King Gambit is now knocked down to its sash. What a solid play. I did forget about Stomping, which makes the wide guard a little bit worse. But again, Stomping Rock Slide will not kill King Gambit. So you're either going to take an Iron Head to the face and lose a guy, or you're going to get red and you're going to get low kicked. What a great play from Francesco there. And that's just going to be, that's kind of seal it, right? The tailwinds are staggered. King Gambit's down to his sash. You can just go for Rock Slide, Sucker, and there's not much he could do. I think that just wins the game. So we're going to see Sucker Punch come through. You don't have to Sucker. You really don't. But we are going to see that Sucker come through on a Garchomp just to get a little extra damage here. And also, Francesco will not lose a Pokemon this turn. It's like not... he'll lose a Pokemon, but he can't lose two, which is really, really big. The Rock Slide comes through. It also has a chance to just flinch this guy and just end the game right here. He doesn't get it, so Dragon Claw is going to come through. Aerodactyl is going to live on 17. He's kind of a bulky guy. He's a bulky Pokemon. And then we're going to see Aerodactyl come back in, but now it's too late. It's 4-2. The leads haven't even been removed from Francesco's side. Now this is just an easy... I don't know. It's probably just Rock Slide and Sucker Punch. Like, you just Sucker Punch something. You could Dual Wing Beat. I think Dual Wing Beat might actually get you killed by Rough Skin, and you might only get one. So it might not be worth... No, Sucker Punch plus one Dual Wing Beat will kill. You could go for that. Also, if you have Sylveon on the back, you just get to Quick Attack, win the game. I think you're just supposed to go for Sucker, Dual Wing Beat. Oh, Sucker and Air. Oh my gosh. There's a critical hit, too. He is going to win the speed tie and hit the Ice Fang there, but it's just not going to be enough. Sucker onto that guy makes sense. I think you could have suckered Garchomp just to break his... just to get him closer to Quick Attack range, because I imagine those are the two Pokemon on the back. But now, with the Tailwind staggered here, and the critical hit, I do think you're allowed to just press Hyper Voice Dragon Claw, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. The critical hit is going to be the game ender. You could also throw... Do we see Sylveon? We do. Again, it's the same four Pokemon. You could throw a Quick Attack and Dragon Claw into Aerodactyl just to make sure, if you're a little bit sus. I think that's what you're supposed to do. You could also just Hyper Voice. I don't think it's the end of the world, but you don't want to get Rock Slide flinched yourself, right? So we're gonna see Quick Attack. There it is, dude. He's just playing every team as perfectly as possible, right? Like, Francesco got a little lucky, but everyone gets kind of lucky, right? I think Eric got a little lucky to get here too. You know what I mean? But Francesco, the thing is that when they get the luck, they don't choke it. They do not choke the luck whatsoever. They lock in, they play it as perfectly as humanly possible, and they take control of the game. But now it comes down to, like, I think it's just double Earthquake crit. I think that's what you need to do. Because Eric doesn't have Rock Slide on Garchomp, so it's like double Earthquake crit. He wins the speed tie. Sylveon eats. Garchomp eats. He actually is eating. And Francesco is our NAIC champion. Francesco's just been such a solid and consistent player for the past year and a half, really, or 2 years, 3 years, right? He's just been very, very solid. Okay. That's pretty fire. That's pretty fire. That's some aura right there. That's some aura farming. That's good. That's fire. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. I mean, he's been so consistent, so solid, and I feel like it's just literally a matter of time until he was going to win one of these, right? He top cut every single IC last year. He's top cut regionals. He's almost won regionals. I think he's won regionals. I'm not actually fully sure in the past couple of years, but he has been such a solid and consistent player constantly in all formats. And so it just makes sense here, right? Like, he was locked in on this team 2 weeks ago. It was his comfort team, and he just wrote it out. He just thought it was the best team, and he continued using it, and it worked. It showed off. Obviously got a little bit lucky, but again, we all do. That's the game we play. So congrats to Francesco for winning the entire tournament and just kind of going nuts with it. Kind of going nuts with this team that he put out on Patreon that everyone could have known about. But it's all about the skill. And this was a pretty banger finals. I think it's a very, very MA finals. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.